Hi there. So I heard that you need some help with your makeup today. Okay, so not your full face, just your eyeshadow today. Yeah, no, I can totally help you with that. I know that eyeshadow can be a little bit tricky if you haven't used it before, but don't worry. What kind of look were you going for today? Just kind of like an all-day natural look, nothing too bold. Yeah. Is that what you're wearing today? Perfect. So I definitely think we could do maybe like a nude lid with some soft browns in the outer corners and like the crease. Perfect. Okay, so I like to start my makeup if I'm going to be doing eyeshadow that day just with my eyes and brows first. That way, if we have any like excess fallout from the shadow itself or any powder, it doesn't go ahead and stick onto our foundation. Okay, so I do have all of my makeup here. If you want to bring any of yours, you totally can. But I think I have a lot of things that would look good on your skin complexion. So let's go ahead and start with your eyebrows first. I'm just going to go ahead and comb through them if that's okay. Just to make sure that they're all in place. Perfect. And then this eyebrow. Perfect. Okay, so I like to use pencil. I feel like it doesn't smudge as easily as like gel or powder. So I'm just gonna go very lightly too. I don't want to be harsh with the pencil because then your brows are going to look pretty dark and bold, and we want them to look nice and natural. So I'm going to go ahead and start shaping the bottom part of your brow. Honestly, your brows are pretty full already, so we don't need to fill them in too much. We're just going to outline the shape of them and the top part as well. Perfect. There we are. Alrighty, so sometimes they look pretty crazy at the beginning, but don't worry because I do shape them even more with my concealer. Let me see this one right here. Perfect. And then also what I like to do towards the end of the brows, or the inner corners at the very end, is just brush the inner corners so I can soften the look in the front of them. That way they don't look too harsh and they look evenly blended. It's kind of like an ombre effect. So now that your brows are colored in, I'm going to go ahead and take my concealer brush and some concealer to carve them out. I'm just going to take my little concealer tube. I'm going to grab my concealer brush and just grab some concealer on the end of it. And I'm just going to carve out the brows for you. Perfect. I know a lot of people sometimes don't like to carve out their brows, but I actually feel that the concealer creates a barrier around the pencil that we just filled in with, so it also doesn't smudge as easily. Not sure if that makes sense, but I like carving my brows out for that reason. Perfect. And then when we carve out your brows, we want to make sure that we blend outwards on the concealer that we just placed so it doesn't look like a white or bright line underneath your brows. We want to blend that downwards onto your lid. Alrighty, so when I first started wearing eyeshadow, I used to use eyeshadow primer. I believe I was using the Urban Decay's primer potion. I'm not sure if that's the name, can't remember, but I've actually since then stopped using eyeshadow primer, and all I use now on my lids as my base is my concealer. I really like the concealer I use. It's really creamy, and it's also the perfect consistency to where it's like tacky enough for the shadow to be very apparent on. Like the shadow really stands out on this concealer. I know a lot of other people also just use concealer as their eyeshadow primer. So if you like how this looks, maybe you can go ahead and start using that as well. But what I do is I take my concealer and I'm very generous with it on my lid. So just go ahead and close your eyes if you can for me. Very generous with it. I basically cover the entire lid with concealer wherever I can. Perfect. Alrighty. Yeah, you want to be very generous. I know it feels like a lot, but this is how I do my eyeshadow, and it personally works really well for me. But again, if at the very end you're not a fan, don't worry, we can always explore new techniques for you. After that, I'm just going to go ahead and blend the edges of the concealer around your eyelid. That way it doesn't look too harsh, and that way we can pat the concealer onto your lids. Awesome. Perfect. Now for the fun part, the actual eyeshadow. Today I'm going to be using my Morphe 35F eyeshadow palette. I love Morphe. I believe most of my eyeshadow palettes, I have quite a bit, are all for the most part Morphe, with the exception of a couple Too Faced palettes. But I just feel like the quality is amazing for these shadows. They're really pigmented. There's a great variation of them within each palette. Each palette has a pretty good amount of shadows, especially for the price you pay. I think it's about 28 bucks per palette or around that end, versus like you getting maybe 10 shadows for $50. I mean, to each their own, but I personally really like Morphe. I think they're a great deal. I'm missing a couple colors because my brother actually accidentally knocked it off the toilet seat when I was getting ready in the restroom the other day, so I'm really sad, but they're perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start with this light peachy creamy color on your lid. So with that, I am going to take this brush right here. It's kind of a flat brush with some density to it, so that we can pick up that base color and pack it onto your lid. So I'm just gonna pick some up like this, and then also what I do before I put it on is I kind of tap it against the palette itself so that any loose powder doesn't fall onto the rest of your face. But go ahead and close your eyes. I'm going to place this onto your lid. I'm just going to pat it. I don't really like to swipe it across because I feel like it can look streaky sometimes, and I feel like it's more vibrant when I go ahead and pack it onto your lid. Perfect. Alrighty, now your other eye. There we are. This shadow really stands out against your skin tone. I really like it. Okay, so now that we have that on the lids, I'm going to take a fluffy blending brush. I have a couple here, but I think I'm going to use this Morphe brush. I believe it's the Morphe Y17. And then I'm going to take this kind of light burnt orange color. It's between orange and brown. So I'm going to take this. I'm actually going to put this on the higher part of your crease. This is going to be, I would say, the majority that you will see on your lid. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on here. The trick to eyeshadow is to continue to blend. If you feel like a color isn't necessarily matching the rest of the shadow, just continue to blend. Eventually it'll soften a bit more. And if you want, you can pair it with other colors after that. I like to blend in circular motions instead of going back and forth or across. I feel like it really disperses the color more evenly when you go in circular motions. Also, you don't want to be heavy-handed when you blend. You want to be light and airy and fluffy. I feel like that also helps disperse the color more. Perfect. So this one's looking good. Awesome. Let me go ahead and put some more on the other eye for you. Again, tapping off the excess. We don't want it to get on the rest of our face. I know you have some moisturizer on. You don't have your foundation on yet, but even on moisturizer, it'll stick. Perfect. Alrighty. Blend this side out a little bit more. Perfect. Alrighty. Awesome. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab a darker color out of the three, and I'm going to use a smaller blending brush because I want it to fit more into the crease of your actual lid versus the whole rest of the surface area, if that makes sense. So here I'm going to take this color here. It's like a darker brown compared to the other two that we just recently used. Going to dip my brush into there, tap off the excess, and then I'm going to go ahead and place it in the outer corner of your lid, and I'm going to blend it up barely into the actual crease of your eye socket, I guess, if that makes sense. So I'm going to start in the outer corner, and with this one I do small circular motions, but I also go ahead and move it in to the center of your eye as I'm kind of going in those circular motions that I just mentioned. This also helps blend all three colors together. That is why this is called a transition shade. And then you also want to blend it upwards a little into your crease. Perfect. Alright, let's go ahead and do this eye. Perfect. It's looking really pretty so far. It's very natural, but also it does bring out your eye color a lot. And it adds a little bit more oomph to your regular daily makeup routine. It's looking really nice. Okay, so far it does look like a natural smoky eye. If we wanted to make it even more a little intense, we could by adding some black in the outer corner. Of course, we wouldn't want to be too heavy-handed with it. We would barely dip the brush in, and we would lightly go ahead and blend it in, not as far as we blended in the dark brown, but maybe half of that as well, so that you can actually see the difference between the initial cream color that we used and the dark brown that we blended in towards the center. But just dab it into the very most outer part of the corner and slightly just blend it in with even smaller circular motions. Awesome. So, okay. So far, I think that is the look for the eyeshadow. We can go ahead and put some eyeliner on if that's okay with you. Alrighty, so did you want a wing today, or did you just want to line your lid shape? Okay, perfect. We can just line the lid shape if that's okay then, just because I know that you said you want it to be more natural than bold or anything. So especially if we're not wearing falsies today, maybe we can just line the lid as opposed to making a full wing. Sounds good. Okay, so for the liner, I use the Wet n Wild Breakup Proof eyeliner. It's waterproof liquid liner. I personally like to use felt tips because they're easier for me to use. It reminds me of almost like a marker. I mean, basically it's a marker, but I find working with the little liquid lipstick pots, they have like a little brush on the end, difficult to work with because it's more flimsy and more prone to kind of moving around your lid versus this. It's compact in the tip. So I mean, to me, it's just easier, but once you get the hang of it, you can decide what you like best. But go ahead and close your eyes. Perfect. I'm just gonna go ahead and line lightly. Gonna hold on to your lid over here. Perfect. Perfect. Alrighty. Awesome. Okay, that eye is perfect. Let's go ahead and move on to the other one. I'm also gonna hold this lid. So with this, if I'm only lining the lid, go ahead and open. Okay, perfect. And go ahead and just keep it closed while it dries. I don't want it to go ahead and smudge on the top of your lid. So just keep your eyes closed. But with the liner, what I like to do is I start really thin in the outer corner, and in the inner corner, my apologies, and then once I get to the outer corner, I like to thicken it up a little bit, just because I feel like that helps enhance the natural shape of your eye. Okay, so you can go ahead and open now that the liner is dry. We're going to go ahead and curl your lashes, apply some mascara, and then maybe we can go ahead and do some bottom shadow as well if you're interested. go ahead. I'm gonna look forward from you. Going to curl your lashes. Also, this is a really old lash curler, so sorry if it looks crusty. Alrighty, perfect. And if you remember from last time, I like to start at the very root of my lashes, the very base, pump that a couple times. Then I move to the middle part of my lashes, pump it there a couple times, and then very lastly at the end of my lashes, so the very tips of them, pump that a couple times. That way, instead of your lashes looking broken, they look like a natural curve. You know what I'm saying? Perfect. So let's do your other eye. Perfect. Perfect. Mascara. I also like to use waterproof mascara. My lashes are pretty stubborn. If I don't, they'll lose their curls, so it's important that I use a waterproof. Just go ahead and look down for me a little bit. Perfect. Perfect. The other eye. Alrighty, and for your bottom shadow, what I'm going to do is take the second color we used, which was this one right here. I'm using kind of like a flat blending brush, if that makes sense. It's not completely flat, it has some give to it. But go ahead and look up for me. I'm just going to put this along your bottom waterline on both eyes. You kind of want to smoke it out a little bit. And then I'm going to take this darker brown that we used at the very end and mix it in with the dark black. So mix those two together, and then similar to how we did the outer corner on the top of your lid, we're going to do the same thing on the bottom. And we're just going to kind of buff this out on the very outer edge of our waterline. Okay, to finish off our look, we're going to go ahead and do some tight lining with a black lining pencil in our waterlines. So go ahead and look up for me. I'm just going to, it's going to take a little bit, but I'm just going to be really fast. Awesome. Alrighty, and then the very bottom, just go ahead and hold your lid down. Alrighty, perfect. Thank you so much. Alright, last eye. Okay. Perfect. Alrighty, and then so that doesn't look too harsh on the bottom, we're going to buff it out onto the shadow that we just placed. That way it evens it out a little bit more. So we're just gonna buff that down onto our lash line on both ends. Yeah, we don't want that liner that we just placed on the bottom to look too harsh. That's why we're buffing it out a little onto the shadow. And last but not least, bottom mascara. Alrighty, although we did a nice natural brown smoky eye, it's not too bold. We're gonna top it off with your bottom mascara. Just look up for me. Perfect. I really like this mascara because it's lengthening, so it makes your lashes look super long and natural. Perfect. Oh my gosh, you look beautiful. Thank you so much for trusting me to do your eyeshadow. It looks really nice. I hope you have fun today. I'll let you go ahead and finish the rest of your makeup, but let me know how it goes. Take cute pictures and send them to me. Okay, nice to see you again. I love you. Have fun. Bye.